I'm Turk Strongman, current resident at Mind Voltage Institute. In this video, we will continue and complete the narration of Chapter 3 in The Secret of the Emerald Tablet by Dr. Gottlieb Latz. In the immediately prior upload of this series, I ended saying, we'll repeat those 15 and then continue through the chapter. Those 15 are, before getting into it, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, now's your chance. Run with it. Subscribe. That way you can at the same time activate the notification bell feature to be apprised of our new uploads. Immediately below your media player window, you'll see the thumb up icon. Please click on that to easily and instantly share the joy of this channel with others. And thirdly, just below that, in the video description area, you will find a donation by PayPal information. Please make a note of that. Now, number 1, a psalm of David for all to sing. 2, this is the 19th psalm from the Old Testament. Number 2, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies show his handiwork. 3, day after day they utter speech, and night after night they display their knowledge. 4, but they have no speech, there are no words, no sound is heard from them. 5, yet their voice is gone out through all the earth, their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tabernacle for the sun. 6, he is like a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, like a champion rejoicing to run his course. 7, his going forth is from one end of heaven to the other. Nothing is hidden from his heat. 8, the law of the Lord is complete and quickens the soul. The statutes of the Lord are trustworthy, making wise the simple. 9, the commands of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The precepts of the Lord are pure, giving light to the eyes. 10, the fear of the Lord is spotless, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are sure and altogether righteous. 11, more to be desired are they than gold, than much pure gold. Sweeter are they than honey from the comb. 12, moreover, by them is your servant warned, and in keeping with them there is great reward. 13, who can discern his own errors? Cleanse me from hidden faults. 14, keep back your servant from the presumptuous sins. Let them not rule over me. Then shall I be upright and innocent of the great transgression. 15, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Continuing now. The first 7 verses of this psalm deal with Jewish cosmology. Early scholars named the psalm Gloria Dei from the phrase glory of God in the second verse. The term Gloria Dei also refers to the goal of alchemy and was used to describe the art for many centuries. The alchemical undertones become clear by verses 8 and 9. The law of God, the statutes of God, the command of God, and the precepts of God mentioned in these verses are synonyms for the 4 arcana, Liquor Hepatis, Fulvus Solarius, Vitriol, and the Natron. The fear of God and the judgments of God mentioned in verse 10 describe the way the arcana are attracted to one another. Liquor Hepatis for Fulvus Solarius, and Vitriol for Natron. Thus, verse 11 alludes to the power of the arcana over metals, as well as the mineral and the vegetative kingdom. Verse 12 speaks directly to the alchemist and hints at the miracles available to him. Verse 13 admonishes the alchemist that progress cannot be made unless he is himself pure. Verse 14 warns of the curse of hubris, the blinding pride that befalls all who seek to understand nature. It cautions that the forces of alchemy not only rule over all material interactions, but can also overcome the alchemist himself. The Egyptian interpretation of the first revision. The central symbol of Egyptian alchemy was the Nile River. It separated their desert landscape into heaven and earth. Heaven was further divided into the blue sky and the starry cosmos, but earth for the Egyptians was Egypt. Of course, they were aware of the rest of the world, but what went on in the rest of the world was of little concern to them. They felt favored by God, and God's greatest gift was the Nile. The Nile flowed only through Egypt, and without the Nile, there was no Egypt. The Nile rose and fell by mysterious forces, and sometimes it overflowed its banks, and all that could be seen was water in the sky. On the horizon where the water ended and heaven began, the river merged with the sky. When it finally returned into its riverbed, the Nile brought back with it a bit of heaven. So whenever the Egyptian alchemists spoke of earth, they meant Egypt with the Nile. Whenever they spoke of heaven, they meant the firmament of the sky with the sun, moon, and stars. The Nile mediated between all of them and embodied what later alchemists came to call the mercurial principle. In the tabula, the Egyptians interpreted what is above to mean heaven and what is below to mean the created world. Earth to them was Egypt, and fire represented the sun, moon, and the stars. The subtle element was air, as contained in the firmament. The gross element was water, as in the Greek Jewish interpretations, except that sometimes it referred specifically to the waters of the Nile. It is with the second rubric that the Egyptian interpretation differs in significant ways from that of the Jews and the Greeks. And the first part of this rubric says, separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross. To that the Egyptians would have added, separate the earth from the gross and the subtle from the fire, which would have meant to separate the Nile from Egypt, the firmament from the sun, moon, and stars. In other words, the phrase separate, repeatedly with great skillfulness, meant much more than simply to isolate the superior and the inferior elements. It meant to further differentiate heaven into the firmament, or sky, and the cosmos, sun, moon, and stars. It meant to split earth into Egypt and the Nile. This supports the assertion that the Egyptians had learned to break down the four compounds of the ARCANUM experiment into their constituent elements. The second rubric continues. It rises from earth to heaven and falls back again to earth, thereby containing within itself the powers of both the above and the below. The Nile overflowed its banks and climbed up from Egypt to reach the firmament. There it took heaven to its bed, and brought back a sacred fertility when it returned it to its shores. Thus the Nile received the powers of the above and the below. It merged Egypt with the firmament, and the sun, the moon, and the stars. The third rubric, thus will you obtain the glory of the entire universe, suggests that Egypt is the highest expression of both the above and the below, but only as far as it remains identified with the Nile. The fourth rubric speaks again of the Nile, positioning it as ruler of all elements in both heaven and earth. This is the greatest strength of all, because it conquers every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. The foregoing Egyptian cosmology formed the basis of their alchemy. The concealed chemical reactions in the Emerald Tablet were every bit as obvious to the high priests of Egypt as they were to the more empirical Greeks. These chemical principles were considered too powerful to be divulged to the uninitiated masses, and for that reason the Egyptian faction sought to prevent their full disclosure in the tabula. Instead, the priests sought to increase their influence over the populace by accentuating a spiritual interpretation. The spiritual motif proceeded by interpreting the rubrics in this manner. Number 1, rubric 1. Our soul originates from God in heaven, and our body originates from earth. Thus, the superior in man or animals is the soul. The inferior is the body. The soul combined with the body is the living body that brings about all creation in the world. Rubric 2. The earth separated from the fire and the gross, separated from the subtle. Earth separated from the fire and the gross separated from the subtle, create the superior and inferior components of humans and animals. The superior is further separated into fire and the subtle, representing the human soul and the animal soul. The inferior is further separated into earth and the gross, representing the human body and the animal body. The repeated separations referred to in this rubric represent the Egyptian idea of reincarnation. At death, the superior part, the soul, returns to heaven, and the inferior part, the body, returns to earth. The soul then returns to earth in a new body, which can either be human or animal. Rubric 3. The reincarnation of the soul into different bodies is the glorification of the universe, an evolutionary process which perfects the soul. And rubric 4. This describes the perfected soul as the greatest strength of all because it conquers every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. It is something at home. It is something at home both in heaven and on earth. And that concludes chapter 3. In the next video, we will commence with, we will continue the series with chapter 4, the second revision, the Tabula Hermetica, which begins with why the first revision was changed. The author of the second revision was a Jew of the first Alexandrian period. His revision of the Tabula was written around 270 BC and came to be called the Tabula Hermetica. Although the Jewish story of Genesis had been incorporated into the first revision, the numerology embedded within the document was of Greek origin. The author of the second revision set out to remedy that situation. But the rest is for the next video. See you there. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, go ahead and take a moment right now to do it. Simultaneously activate the notification bell feature to be apprised of our new uploads. Immediately below your media player window, you see the thumb up icon. Please click on that to instantly and easily share the joy of this channel with others. And then just below that, in the video description area, you will find a donation by PayPal information. Please make a note of it. I'm Terry Strawman, current resident at Mindfulness Institute. Be well.